UFC 24 first defence took place on March 10th, 2000 at the Lake Charles Civic Centre in Lake Charles, Louisiana. The headline offer, the draw for this event, is the first title defence of the new UFC heavyweight champion Kevin Randleman. He's scheduled to fight Pedro Rizzo in our main event. We will see what happens there. We open with a montage of some nice knockouts and moments over some recent events and some not so recent events. And we hear the narrator tell us that it's time to get real. I'll always remember, let's open up the gate, right? That's what it is for me. We go to commentary, we see Mike Goldberg and Jeff Blatnick. Mike introduces Jeff, hands it over to him by saying the heavyweights will take centre stage. You then expect Jeff Blatnick to take over, maybe talk about something, maybe talk about our main event, and he probably did on the original broadcast. But as soon as it gets handed over to Jeff opens up his mouth. We then transition away from commentary to the octagon, where now it's Mike Goldberg talking to us. We never hear what Jeff Blatnick has to say. So I'm presuming he went on an uncomfortable rant about geopolitics, the shifting demographics in America around the year 2000, probably the Clinton administration, as well as the impending Bush versus Gore election. So sadly, we didn't get to hear about all of that. We just got to hear Mike Goldberg run down the rules, the regulations, the ways to win. Jeff Blatnick goes on to tell us that who the judges are, and it's as though his mic gets cut off halfway through, and then we get another cut, another transition, and then Mike Goldberg tells us who the judges are. The government must be trying to silence Jeff Blatnick. So we get into our first fight. Future UFC Hall of Famer Jens Pulver makes his debut. The student of Frank Shamrock is his opponent, David Velasquez, or David, I'm not sure. Jens Pulver, trained by Pat Miletich. We cannot escape this fucking guy. Trained by Miletich tends to mean that Jens is about to stink the joint out, okay? We're told he's a power puncher and a good wrestler. Sounds like propaganda to me. They're trying to cover their bases in case this is boring, so they can turn around and go, well, this isn't what we expected. But we get underway with the first UFC fight of the new millennium, right? This is the first fight in the UFC of the year 2000. Velasquez goes for a roundhouse, which is caught by Pulver, doesn't even land, no damage done, and Mike Goldberg with the Joe Rogan-esque, ow! Pulver literally caught it, took him down, did not even connect whatsoever. Jens lands a couple of left hands on the ground, and Mike Goldberg, who started off the broadcast just completely unbearable, right? It's he is freaking the fuck out whilst nothing is happening, and also Blatnick is just insufferable. Velasquez makes it back to the feet. Jens, in a classic Miletich move, clinches, pushes Velasquez back against the cage, tries to knee, lands some left hands before we break and move back to centre. And I'm about to mute the audio, okay? Because what we've done here is we've turned up the mics in the corner to hear Shamrock and Miletich, and we are hearing them. But commentary is now also talking over them, creating this cacophony of noise. Just unbearable. Everybody is screaming, yelling over each other. The audience is in there as well. Just terrible production, terrible commentary. I don't need to hear everything from the corner. Turn the mics down. And also, I don't need to hear everything from commentary either. I don't need to hear them try and yell over the top of the corner and the audience to try and fit their point of view in as well. Their point of view sucks. Pulver lands a knee in the clinch, and then another, which actually drops Velasquez, and Mike Goldberg, whilst eating the microphone, screams into his fucking PlayStation headset. My volume on the TV when I was watching this was on 5. It goes up to 100. I still can't even hear myself think over commentary. And for the first time in Retro Review history, I am muting the commentary. 10 minutes and 46 seconds into this 2 hour and 20 minute broadcast. It's done. I'm not listening to the screaming anymore. Pulver is clearly levels above Velasquez, just beating him up on the feet, gets the takedown into side mount, full mount, ends the round with Pulver attempting an armbar when the horn goes. This could have been 10-8 Pulver. He just beat the shit out of Velasquez. He looked really good, I'm impressed. Into the second, Pulver clinches, lands a couple knees before getting the takedown. Looks as though an arm triangle could be open, but he opts for full mount instead, lands some nice ground and pound. Velasquez is just trying to hold on at this point. Miletic in the corner actually calls for the 12-6 elbows, and Pulver does that, which then opens up the ability to land the straights from the top. And I think Big John wanted to see Velasquez die, and so he just let this go on for way too long before then stopping the fight. Pulver wins in what was the best lightweight fight we've seen up to this point. And credit to Miletic. See, I will give credit to Miletic for the call on the 12-6 elbows, and I've never discredited his ability as a coach. He's very smart, and he's a smart fighter too. It's just that results in fucking boring matches. But Pulver looked great here, and nice win. So now we have Tiki coming out. He's trained by Tito Ortiz, another lunatic from Huntington Beach, and he's up against crazy Bob Cook. Starts off at an absolute sprint. Cook charges at Tiki. They trade punches, and Tiki clinches, lands some knees. Cook takes him down. Tiki's immediately back up. We stay in the clinch. We're back down. Tiki on top. Cook puts Tiki in the guard and attempts an armbar. Tiki escapes, and I shit you not, all of this happened in the first 25 seconds of the fight. All of it. Oh, good grief. And by the way, I think Shamrock's in the corner of Cook. So after that sprint for 25 seconds, we calm down here. Cook attempts the single leg, doesn't get the takedown, but he's able to drive Tiki back to the cage. He still can't get the takedown though. We break, and Tiki now starts landing rights and lefts on Cook. The technique is nothing to write home about here, but he's landing at least. And now Cook tries to take him down, but Tiki ends up on top into half guard, and we're back to the feet. It's absolute chaos in this opening round. I can't even describe, there's no other word for it other than chaos. We then trade knees to the body in the clinch. Absolutely no defence from either guy. We're just all out attack here. All offense, no defense. We whiff a whole bunch of shit. We whiff a whole bunch of high kicks before then another takedown attempt from Cook, which ends up with him pulling guard, and eventually we're back to the feet before the end of the round. With 30 seconds to go, we get another slugfest again. This has just been a fucking brawl from the start. Ridiculous. And I don't know how you score this first round. I really don't. Tiki lands a 3 or 4 piece combo, which Cook just eats before the horn sounds. So, honestly, 10-9 either way. And it's not actually going to matter. So, I mean, thank God, because I don't know how you score that round. Into the second, and we do not kick off with the frantic pace like we did before. Cook gets the takedown into half guard. He's on top, and he's able to get to mount. Tiki turns in the mount, which is about as good as tapping. And I'm being dead serious on that. You might as well just tap. I've said this before on the channel. I don't understand why the fuck you turn in mount. You're getting punched in the face, and I get no one wants to get punched in the face. But now when you turn your back, all you do is give up the neck. And now you can't see the punches coming. What the fuck, right? So I don't know why people do it, but they continue to do it even to this day, turning in the mount. More often than not does spell the end, and it did here. Rear naked choke and the win for Bob Cook, who even says, right, in his post-fight interview, he says, as soon as he gave me the back, it was wraps. Because obviously it was. Look at the corner of Tiki here, just fucking ridiculous. But yeah, obviously, of course it was. As soon as Tiki turned round in the mount, even I was saying like, oh fuck, okay, this is it. And Bob knew it too. Bob got the choke, Bob got the win. And now Pat Miletic is going to join us here on commentary. And this would be a timeline entirely too good to exist. By the way, Cook had an interview, nothing really of note. Him and Shamrock just had a laugh and joke with James. But Pat Miletic is on commentary, and he's asked, in a timeline entirely too good to exist, do you plan on retiring? Boy, I wish. Boy, I wish. There's apparently rumours of Pat Miletic's retirement in the year 2000. He's here to set the record straight. He is not retiring. He plans to fight in the summer, God help us all, after rehabbing his back, which he apparently hurt. He says he plans to open a training gym in the winter. This is obviously at the start of the year. And then they talk a little bit about Jens Pulver and give him credit for his performance. So Pat Miletic, he's already kind of training all these guys anyway, but now he wants to open up his own gym. Next up, we have Dave Manet versus Fabiano Iha, who manages to still get booked, even though he has not looked good once. We last saw him in Pride against Frank Trigg, I think, where he got fucked up from the word go. So we also seen him lose to Laverne Clark. Laverne Clark becoming the first boxer in UFC to win a UFC fight, which isn't a good look for Ia, who commentary try and tell is 8-2, by the way. So you're telling me we've seen this guy, we've seen both this guy's losses, he's looked terrible twice, and it just so happens they were his worst performances ever, because he's undefeated elsewise, you know? So we just seen him at his lowest moments, and elsewise he's really fucking good. So Iha gets the takedown quickly. Off that takedown, he then attempts the armbar. Manet escapes and stands back in the centre. This is going to be a common theme throughout this fight. Manet lands a nice left hand before we then clinch. Nothing really comes of it. We break, more dilly-dallying between the two of them. Then another clinch. Manet in the dominant position against the fence, and then another break. Ia shoots, gets sprawled on. Manet just lands 2 knees to the head of the grounded opponent, and nobody says anything, nobody does anything. We just move on as though nothing happened, and nobody mentions the rules, which, I mean, terrific, just great stuff. So Manet is now on top in the guard, and we're back to the feet. Nothing happening. There's a lot of activity. People are moving. There's a whole lot of activity, yet no action, if that makes sense. They're moving, they're doing stuff, no damage or anything actually, you know, important to really score and win the fight. It's a lot of getting into position and then just backing off and then reset the fight. Manet, again, blatantly cheating, multiple fence grabs, nothing said, nothing done about it. Big John maybe mentions it once, he warned him one time and then just drops it even though he continues to do it. No punishment whatsoever, and the round ends after Ia pulls guard and then Manet just stands back up. This, like, oh, good grief. Right, round 2, by the way, round 2. Starts with Manet peppering Ia up against the fence. He takes a few shots before then just pulling guard. We stay here for a while, for about 2 minutes. Very limited ground and pound, before we then just stand back up. After we stand back up, Manet goes for another flurry, landing a 1-2, then a roundhouse to the body. Then Ia just pulls guard again. I genuinely have no words. What the fuck are you doing? And see, even if he was pulling him into his guard and he was actually gaining something from it, then okay, whatever, I don't like it, but at least I understand it. You're pulling him into guard and then he's just like standing up 30 seconds later with like no fight. Like, this was an unbelievably frustrating fight to watch. Like, no activity, not doing anything with the guard. Just let Manet lie on top of you before he just then stands back up. No challenge, no resistance. I hate this fight. So we stand up, we clinch again. You know where this is going already. Ia pulls guard again. He's fucking terrible. We stand back up again with no resistance. Reset the fight with 10 seconds left. And you would think with 10 seconds left, right, okay, that's going to be it. No. Don't worry. Because we still have time to pull guard again before the round ends with 10 seconds left. This fight sucks ass. Into the third, Ia shoots and an initial sprawl before Ia then just pulls guard again. What? And then, like, why am I even watching this shit? Okay, Manet just stands back up. We clinch again. Ia pulls guard again. I'm skipping to the finish of the fight. I don't even care what happens. If there was a good punch, if there was a good knee, I had to rewatch the fight again to be able to get the pictures on the screen right now. Nothing happened. Nothing, of course, happened. There was no good punches. There was no good knees. I don't even care. I'm not wasting another 4 minutes of my life watching this fight. Many wins by decision, obviously, he did. And see, after rewatching it to get like the pictures on the screen here, see after the horn goes to end the fight, Ia actually has the gall, the nerve to raise his hands up after the fight like he done something in there. Like there's any possibility or chance I'll raise my arms up and maybe the judges will give me the third round after I've done nothing but pull guard and then just let him stand back up again. Maybe they'll give me that. Fuck you. I really hope Ia doesn't get booked again. I haven't looked at his record to see if he does get booked here or in Pride after this. But guys, he's now 8-3. So we've seen every single one of this guy's defeats. None of his wins. He's looked fucking buns every single time. What a worthless 15 minutes. And after 2 good fights to start the card, right? Tiki and Cook was good. Jens Pulver put on a fucking clinic. We get these 2 guys out here to shit the bed. And I'm not even entirely blaming fucking many for it. But we've seen Iha now twice look terrible. And you're still putting him on this card. Why? We then run some promo after that for UFC 25 and we advertise a huge main event, Tito Ortiz versus Wanderlei Silva. I cannot wait for this. Tito has been on a streak of really good fights recently, an all-timer against Frank Shamrock, and Wanderlei Silva has been doing the business over in Pride FC. This is a great matchup and a great main event for the vacant UFC middleweight championship. We remember Frank Shamrock, after beating Tito Ortiz, decided to retire and relinquish the championship. Tito is now on commentary. They ask about the fight with Shamrock, and Tito is actually in pretty good spirits here. He says he's now been working with Frank Shamrock since he is the best in the world. He also name drops Chuck Liddell, amongst others, that he's working alongside. Tito's one of my favourites. He is really good, and he comes across dead likeable in his interviews when he can actually speak English. And I'm really looking forward to this fight against Wanderlei Silva. So into the 4th fight on the card, we have 2 more guys that we don't know, Lance Gibson and Jermaine Andre, and Dan Severn is at cageside in his referee attire. Or he is a Foot Locker employee. Apparently, according to my sources, he was the referee during the prelim fights. We will eventually then see them later on. And he thought he would dress up for the occasion and not then bring a spare shirt, so he was just walking around in referee shirt all night. I have no words. So I mean, I'd try and get one of those Big John shirts with the pay-per-view embroidery on it. I think those shirts are cool. But look, we stay in the clinch here. The fight starts, we're in the clinch, and the pancreation fighter that you might have seen on the tail of the tape, okay, he's a pancreas guy. He gets the upper hand in the clinch over the Muay Thai fighter. And then the double leg from Lance, who's now on top in the guard. Lance able to pass the half guard, and now we hear from the corner again. I've unmuted, obviously, because Tito Ortiz was at the desk. And now he's still on commentary. And even he knows to lay out when the corner is talking. And it struck me now, why don't we just put fucking Dan Severn on commentary instead of refereeing? If he's already here and he's already getting paid, I'd rather have him at the desk. But look, back to the fight. Lance has been on top this whole time. By the way, not like an attempt for an armbar at the end allows Jermaine to get up, who, by the way, at the end of the first round lands a major combo with seconds left to go. The left hook knocks down Lance, nearly finishes the fight with some ground and pound. And I thought he was about to steal the fight. He's been dominated this entire round. And with 30 seconds left to go, he almost salvaged the round for himself. You could argue he won it, to be fair, at the end. Into the second, In that last round there, we ended at a sprint with Jermaine Andre landing that combo and almost getting the finish. So we ended with a sprint. We now start here with a crawl. We clinch against the fence Miletich style, and the crowd starts to get a little restless. Lance lands some good knees in the clinch, again Miletich style, but he is so fucking chinny that Andre, back against the fence, lands a left hook, then another right hook on Lance, and it looks as though he's rocked. He's still in control, but you can tell he gets stunned by that. It's as though it sent a shock through his whole body. Lance ends up getting the takedown and holding half guard for the rest of the round because he panicked, honestly. So into the final round, you could argue 1-1. Jermaine got dominated in round 1, but last 30 seconds he done more damage than Lance. Lance had the armbar attempt, but Jermaine was able to escape. You know, it just depends on whatever way you score it. But we start the third, as always, clinched against the fence. We stay here, by the way, holding the body lock for nearly 4 minutes. And then with 90 seconds to go, the pancreation fighter, again by the way, grabs the Muay Thai fighter, knees him in the head whilst clinched, and knocks him the fuck out cold. Jermaine face plants to the mat, unresponsive, eyes open. He looks dead for a second, until then, thankfully, he moves his arm so we know he's still alive. And I don't know what happened to the audio here, but now everyone's mic on commentary is now muffled. The noise is now really distorted. Thank God this company is going bankrupt. The audio has been absolute poison all night. The fight here, let's just talk about the fight. The fight had its moments. It had some big moments interrupted by long periods of nothing between like the armbar attempt and the knockdown in round 1. Round 2, Jermaine's stunned Lance again, and into round 3 you're thinking, wow, this is really fucking boring. And then you just get caught off guard like that. You just get caught by surprise, kind of like Jermaine did. Big finish. And now, by the way, Jermaine now has a full medical team and oxygen tank in the cage, so God knows what condition he's in. Commentary keeps telling us he's okay. Sounds more hopeful than it looks, to be honest. He looked halfway to see the Lord, basically. He looked like he was gone. But we get a nice interview from Lance Gibson and then some Frank Shamrock propaganda. He joins the commentary desk, and this is kind of just like a conversation. It's not even really an interview. It's just like a chat with the boys, a chat between these three guys, Mike Goldberg, Frank Shamrock, Jeff Blatnick, Nightmare Blunt Rotation. We ask about his career, his marriage, we transition to him training other fighters, and like, I noticed here that we're talking for a long time. It feels a little bit like stalling and Mike Goldberg looking off camera every now and again. Like, remember back in the tournament era, if you were watching the retro reviews then, we used to get this, particularly the early ones, where they're looking for an alternate. They're looking for a replacement in the back. We're stalling for time. Like, and it hit me that we were stalling for time when we started talking about Chuck Norris. And then we just keep talking and keep talking about nothing. And then we start showing prelim fights. Okay, what the fuck is going on? What's going on is, whilst warming up in the back, Kevin Randleman slipped on the floor, hit his head and knocked himself out. I'm not kidding. So Randleman's taken away in an ambulance to the hospital to be revived, concussed obviously. So the scheduled main event between Kevin Randleman and Pedro Rizzo will not happen. This is rescheduled for UFC 26. The main event is cancelled. And the audience doesn't know about it until it's time to put the main event in the cage. But they aren't getting the main event they paid to see. But on our screen right now, for the paying customer at home watching this pay-per-view, again, pay-per-view, remember, what's on now is a lightweight prelim fight, which sounds like Dante's 7th level Inferno in the year 2000. Shoney Carter, Brad Gum, with Dan Severn as the special guest referee. What is happening? And look at the state of fucking Shoney Carter's gear. What is going on with the one full leg and the one short leg gear, the wrapped ankles that don't match the fucking bottoms? What the fuck is this gear? Nothing happens until Gum is able to lock in a triangle. Well, lock in to an extent, because he just holds it in for a long time, but Carter doesn't tap. He's just content to sit there, which tells me he's not in. Carter ends the round on top, landing some slow and shit ground and pound. Into the second, Carter on top in the guards, some really slow, some really clunky striking. Carter gets a nice throw, but we're back to the feet. It's as though I'm watching Manny versus Ia again, where you're just taken down or clinched up, and then you're just like, let go, and then we just reset. That's just what we do. So Carter in the guards, some reversals back and forth. Who gives a shit? Carter wins the decision, and I get that you need to put something in the cage while you scramble for a main event, but putting prelim fights on when you've already watched the main card is so depressing, because you know these guys aren't as good as the guys we've seen. So the quality falls right off a cliff, whilst commentary tries to tell you that this is the best thing ever. How great is this? And you're watching, like, I just seen Jens Pulver kill someone. I just watched Tiki and Bob Cook go to war in a chaotic brawl and get a finish. I don't care about either of these guys. And I suppose, look, you're scrambling for a main event in the back for a matchup. You put this on, it's whatever, but I just don't need to see it. Have Frank Shamrock talk on commentary more about Chuck Norris instead, you know. But look, the time has come. We've managed to scrape together a main event. Ted Williams versus Steve Judson. Mike Goldberg says how lucky are our fans that they get more heavyweight action. Not from our advertised main event. Not from the number 1 and number 2 heavyweights in this company. You can't even say the world. Pride has that. But the number 1 and number 2 heavyweights in this company. You don't get to see that. Here's 2 random guys we found hanging about. How lucky are you to witness Steve Judson and Ted Williams go fuck yourself? Bruce says that Steve Judson's no stranger to the octagon. Could have fooled me. But Steve was at UFC 22 and Brad Kohler knocked him the fuck out in 30 seconds flat, face planted, stiffs aboard, out cold. So that's why we don't remember him. Steve almost knocks down Williams, and again, look, more clunky heavyweights. Williams is just like walking forward, trying to clinch, just eating strikes. He can't get a takedown, but finally gets an underhook to stop the onslaught. Doesn't last long, because Steve again lands a big right hook and a knee to the body. But he's so chinny that the first strikes that Williams lands ends up being the finish of the fight. 1 right hook, he then spams 4 uppercuts to the body in the clinch. 1 more right hook up top, that lands. They then separate. Williams lands a jab on Judson, who then crumples to the floor in a heap and loses the fight. Somehow. Genuinely get hit with 2 hooks, 4 body shots, and a jab. Finished. Finito. Done. They then try to fill more time on the card by showing another prelim fight. We're already past the 2-hour mark, by the way, but hey ho, here we are. You could have ended this card just after Randleman and Rizzo got cancelled, but here we go. Scott Adams and Ian Freeman. Adams immediately shoots, starts rolling for leg locks. Some decent defence here by Freeman. Now Adams looks for the heel hook again. Locked in, working for it for a while. And then eventually gets the finish as Freeman taps. And that's that. That's the card. We don't then go back to cage side. Again, think about this. You're the paying pay-per-view customer. We don't go back to cage side to sign off. We don't care that much. We have commentary. Commentary doesn't even tell us what the fuck's going on. They don't care enough to tell us about the fight being rescheduled, why we didn't get the fight we paid for, what the fuck happened to Randleman and Rizzo. We just run a montage of tonight's fights. And that brings UFC 24 to a close. And they have the gall to turn around at the end and say, wasn't that a great event? See you next time. Because we know you'll be back, you fucking mugs. See you next time. I cannot wait for this company to go bankrupt. Let's just talk about this event as a whole here. I cannot wait for SEG to go out of business. We started off hot. Jens Pulver with the fight of the night. Well, I say fight of the night. He put on an absolute masterclass. It was probably performance of the night. Best lightweight fight in UFC to that point. Most impressive performance. Tiki and Cook was then a fun brawl. It goes into the positive column. The technique wasn't tremendous, but it was fun while it lasted. So we got the card off to a really good start, and then it just sort of fell off a cliff because we then had to watch Many versus Iha, which was absolute torture. I wouldn't show it to a fucking blind guy. It was so heinous. Lance Gibson and Jermaine Andre, that had its moments. I wouldn't say it was a bad fight. It had some decent shit in there. A few finishing sequences that, well, sort of false finishes, we'll call them. Some heavy strikes, submission attempts, and a good knockout finish. If you ignore that the finish was preceded by 4 minutes of body lock against the fence, then yeah, it was great. Like, I wouldn't put it in great fight category, but it goes into the positive column at least. But then Judson and Williams being subbed for Randleman and Rizzo is criminal. And trying to sell it to the viewer, not as disappointment, which it is, it's disappointing. Mike Goldberg just straight up lying to you, destroying what's left of his credibility, saying, well, we have more great heavyweight action between two nobodies. One guy just got knocked out in 30 seconds last time you've seen him, and the other guy you've never fucking seen before is shocking. And I get it, look, main event gets cancelled, you're scrambling for shit. But you need to be honest with what's happening. Tell us what's happened. And then say, right, folks, sorry about that, but here you go, here's at least something. And then close on that. We do not, the prelim fights, see, unless there's a crazy knockout, I don't need to see them. Do not interrupt the live broadcast to go back to a half-empty building or a quarter-full building, because the building's half empty when you get to the main card. For the prelims, it's even more empty. And again, you have to think on your feet. Your main event just get taken away in an ambulance. But be honest with the viewer about it. See, whilst you stall, you have Frank Shamrock sitting there, Dan Severn's here, Big John, talk to more people. Where the fuck was the matchmaker, Peretti? He didn't want to show his face here. He does on every other fucking card. He didn't want to stand beside this one. And that's another UFC card where the advertised fight doesn't actually take place. And I get it, you can't really help this one. Randleman gets injured at the event. But you would have a lot more credit in the bank if this wasn't such a regular occurrence. And a final point. Commentary was terrible. There you go, that's that. So Jens Pulver should get all the bonuses for the evening. And ironically, see when UFC released the encyclopedia or whatever, and they retroactively went back and they gave these awards to folk, I don't think they actually paid them, but they said this was KO of the night, this was sub of the night, this was performance. Yeah, Jens Pulver didn't get anything. So, not to worry. Who will get performance of the night next time at UFC 25 Ultimate Japan 3? That's right, folks, we're going back to Japan because the first 2 times we went there, it worked out so well, didn't it? So, obviously, we're going back. Why is SEG going bankrupt again? Can someone remind me? Tito and Vanderlei in the main event should be good. I'm looking forward to that. And, in fact, let me tell you something. This card only has 4 fights on it. This upcoming card, UFC 25, has 4 fights on it, 2 prelim fights, because we need to make time for John Peretti interviews in between all the matchups. Because the matchmaker has to be seen again. Because he's in position to put himself on TV, so he does it every opportunity he gets. Only when he doesn't want to tell people, you aren't getting your main event tonight, does he decide then not to put himself on television. So we get to be graced with the presence of John Peretti again. How lucky are we? 2 hours and 45 minutes, folks, for a 4-match main card. Fucking embarrassment. That's 41 minutes per fight. But, you know, we'll have to throw the 2 prelim fights in there as well before the main event to completely kill the card and the vibes. Half an hour shit break right there. Prelims with people you've never heard of and don't care about either. Remember last time? Last time we went to Japan and we held the last UFC tournament, they were putting guys with a 1-3 record against guys having their first pro fight ever. Fuck SEG, fuck matchmaking. They deserve bankruptcy, and I cannot wait for Dana White, when he was less baldy, to come in and buy this thing. And I also cannot wait for you to like this video, hit subscribe, hit the notify bell, and comment your own thoughts below. Share with a friend. Thank you very much for watching. Fucking hell.